Welcome back, Endgame community. I'm Pierre, here to talk about rookies at the wide receiver position. You probably watched the combine, saw these guys run, jump, and do their best to impress NFL scouts. Let's see how much they impress me. I'm going to give you my top 10 rookie rankings at wide receiver before the NFL draft. So first off, there's a guy that probably grabbed a lot of attention at the combine because of his speed, and that is Alec Pierce from Cincinnati. So this is a bigger receiver at 6'3", and he's somebody who mostly a deep threat at Cincinnati, a team that really come on and become one of the top teams in college football, which a lot of people surprised the last couple of years. But Pierce himself, didn't stand out, though he did impress on the field, but, the numbers weren't gaudy. It's not someone who got a lot of hype, but at 4.4 speed, at his size, his height adjusted speed score, the best among all receivers. All right, now, what does that mean in terms of his ability as a pro? He will be used as a deep threat. Some people are worried that, his separation and his route running isn't precise enough to make him more than kind of an occasional big hit guy. So he's somebody who probably best saved for best ball and maybe later on in your rookie draft. But he does have the potential to develop into more, so I'm keeping my eye on him. Right now we're looking at the raw physical ability, and he's definitely got it. So I'm going to throw Pearson there into my top 10. All right, let's talk about a guy whose value might fluctuate a lot based on where he gets drafted. It's hard to really gauge what teams think of him right now. Jahan Dotson of Penn State. Look, huge numbers, 91 catches, 1,182 yards, and that is in the Big Ten, not known as a necessarily passing first conference, but he had a 90% college dominator rating, somebody who is electric with the ball in his hands. But here's the thing, it's going to be about opportunity with him. He's not necessarily a go-to alpha receiver, that mold based on his size. I think that he could do a lot of positive things given the opportunity, but it's hard to see with a guy that's a little more undersized where he will fit. So I think he's a day 2 pick, probably towards the back end. I see him more as a third round pick. We'll see exactly what happens though. All right, now a guy that's shooting up the rankings and could continue to ascend, that is Skyy Moore from Western Michigan. This is somebody who had a 36% target share at Western Michigan. Now you watch the highlights and he can do it all. He's great with the ball in his hands. He made a lot of really tough contested catches despite not being a bigger receiver. This is someone who showed off 4.4 speed. He isn't necessarily going to stand out in terms of his physical stature, but I like that he can do it all. This is somebody who I think really could surprise some teams. I know this might sound a little out there, but I see a little bit of Jamar Chase in him when I'm watching his highlights because he doesn't really care about the defenders in front of him. He's going to do what he does. He's going to catch the ball in traffic. He's not quite as big and maybe not quite as elusive as Chase, but I just like the way he runs his routes. I like that he tracks the ball no matter where it is. So putting up huge numbers at a school like Western Michigan, not easy to do. I think Skyy Moore is somebody who could keep climbing up the rankings and somebody I got my eye on. It's hard to know what to make of George Pickens right now. Obviously recovered from the ACL and didn't play a whole lot last year. Came on late in the season. Somebody who broke out at an early age. Looked like the sky was the limit for him. So one of the highest breakout ages here, 18.5. But hasn't had the opportunity to put up huge numbers in college because of that injury. Also, of course, being on a team with so much talent. Team that could run the ball in Georgia. So Pickens is that ideal blend of size and speed. We will see exactly how concerned teams are about the fact that he doesn't have a lot of necessarily numbers on his track record or his resume to point to. There's a lot of potential here. Still some question marks. I'm pretty high on Pickens. I don't have him quite in the top 5, but I do think he's up there, and dynasty owners are definitely going to be more interested in him. Now, probably the biggest winner from the draft combine is Christian Watson, a name that maybe not too familiar for a lot of people coming from a tiny school again, but Watson had one of those amazing speed scores as a 6'4" guy running a sub 4.40, so he's up there with some of the best all time. I mentioned Alec Pierce earlier. Watson was number 2 behind him in height adjusted speed score. So the physical ability, check. College production, check. How high are teams going to be on a small school guy? We will see, but Watson is definitely a name that is climbing a lot. Got him number 6. I can't quite put him ahead of some of these other players that I'm going to mention who are going to be probably picked round 1 or 2 for sure. Watson, I think, could slip into the second round just based on his talent alone, but we'll see exactly how he's valued by NFL teams. All right, now at number 5, the first of our Ohio State receivers, we had some of them on there, Chris Olave. Now, lazy comp time, could be the next Henry Ruggs on the field, not off the field, hopefully. I say that because he made an interesting statement at the Combine itself, saying that he was interested in the Raiders. Raiders obviously in market for a receiver to replace Ruggs, and he fits the bill, again, as a guy who's a burner, got that speed, but the best thing that Olave did at the Combine was show that he was a really good route runner, and he caught everything that was thrown his way. You worry with a guy that has just that pure speed. Sure, he can run fast down the field, but is it going to be another John Ross situation, a guy who doesn't know how to get open, can't run underneath intermediate routes? Well, I think he dispelled a lot of those concerns with his performance there. So Olave, a guy that should go in the first round. Will it be to the Raiders? We'll see, but that's not a bad landing spot for him based on the way they like to throw the ball deep. Now, number 4, I have a guy who did not perform at the Combine coming off an injury, should run at the Pro Day for USC. That is Drake London. So comp for him would be T. Higgins, maybe Mike Williams, a guy who's a little bit on the longer side, can get downfield. We'll see exactly how fast he proves himself to be. I think that's a pretty fair comp, not just because of the physical stature, but I think he's that type of player who can make that big play downfield, use his length, get some separation, but also kind of out physical other cornerbacks, defenders, because this is a guy who's been a basketball player too. He knows how to get that jump ball. Obviously, he's got the length, but also the ability to do that. So somebody who can make those contested catches. Is he going to be a target hog? You got to worry. Well, if he goes to a team like, a lot of people linking him to Detroit, who needs a receiver, you might see a guy like St. Brown, another USC receiver, getting a lot more target share, and London being the stretch guy, making more big splash plays, but it's a little more inconsistent. So keep that in mind for fantasy. London might not necessarily be a guy who commands a ton of targets, but he'll do a lot with them. So great for best ball, and we'll see as far as consistency goes. But again, it's early to see. His landing spot will determine a lot of his fantasy production. Now, number 3, I have a guy who could have arguably been one of the top 2 receivers in this class had he not been injured, sadly, in the playoffs, and that is Jameson Williams. Alabama made the smart decision to transfer there, but huge numbers in his season, and then, of course, tore that ACL. We'll see what happens. Now, as far as his draft stock, don't think it's really going to be impacted that much. Teams saw what he could do. I think he's a round 1 pick. Tennessee is a team that would be interesting for him. So Williams, again, is not a guy who's going to have that commanding size. He's going to be a little bit more Chris Godwin-like in that he can get open underneath and he can use his hands and run after catch ability. So Jameson Williams, still high on him, but I'm going to keep him at 3 because I got 2 players I like just a little bit better at receiver. And then the other Ohio State receiver, that is Garrett Wilson. A lot of people have him as the top receiver in this rookie class. Hard to argue against him. You see what he can do. He is great with the ball in his hands, that run after catch ability, but also he just knows how to get open deep. This is a guy who's got the wheels, and I like how he knows how to maneuver in traffic. It's hard to make a case against him. Look, I could see him being your wide receiver 1, maybe even the number 1 overall pick in a dynasty rookie draft. And so again, I have no reason to argue against that, but I do like my guy number 1 just a little bit better, and I like to stick to my guns because I didn't see anything to move Traylon Burks off the wide receiver 1 spot. So some people disappointed because Traylon Burks ran a 4.55 at the Combine. Well, with all these guys running sub 4.4s, that looks bad, but let's remember Burks a little bit bigger, guy 6'2", a little stockier. So go back to that speed score that adjusts for height and size. He actually was 6th highest in terms of all receivers for his speed score. So it's not about just speed, it's about everything else. He's got the hands, the best hands in this class, and we love to hear that he compared himself to Deebo Samuel, said he models his game after him, tries to mimic him. That's what we want to hear, because what is he going to do once he has the ball in his hands? This is a guy who can catch the ball in traffic. He knows how to get behind secondaries, but once he gets that ball in his hands, maybe even get the ball in the backfield, that's what you want. It's all about the touches, and I think Burks is still going to be the most explosive playmaker in this class because he's going to be less dependent on the quarterback play. So for me, I still have Burks as the number 1 receiver. We'll see exactly where he lands in NFL draft, though. It'll be interesting to see exactly how high he does get drafted and if he is the number 1 receiver drafted. All right, that's my breakdown of the top receivers, top 10 right now, rookie wide receivers heading into 2022 after the NFL draft. These will be updated, and we'll give you the latest rankings to let you know how you should value these incoming rookies. All right, thanks for watching.